Going back to your friend for a second. Gosh, I'm sorry. That's just really beautiful. Really is. And these two people, that meant so much to you. It's just instead of living in your grief, and it is easy to do, and we're not saying that there's a right or wrong to this.
Yeah, for sure.
But to understand that you can do more with the grief than you can if you feel shame around it. Sometimes grief can be tricky. I feel like it can pop up at different times.
It's like a ocean. It's like waves.
Yeah.
Comes and goes. Some days I'm smiling while talking about my mom. Some days I'm bawling.
Yeah, exactly. And to be okay with where you are in that grief process.
Sure.
You can still do the work. You can still have the days where you're bawling and you're like, yeah, I'm bawling it, but you're still doing the work to glorify your mom and your best friend. With your best friend, did he show signs of struggling with mental health?
He did.
He did. Okay.
He did.
Sometimes you don't know.
He did in college. We had an episode in college where I was back home. My friends called me, and we were young. We were 18, 19 years old, and he had a situation with a girl. They're like, hey, he's thinking about killing himself. And, we're like, man, you're soft, like, over a girl, and just kind of put it off. We're 18, 19 years old. Like, get over it, man. Like, leave her, And, there were other things that I believe I saw in him that now I look back was like, he was struggling mentally. So when I got that call, even though it was surprising, alarming, it wasn't all the way surprising to me. So it was tough.
Yeah. Well, and back then we just didn't know enough.
No.
And that's the response that a lot of people would have given back then, because it's just supposed to be like, yeah, sweep that under the rug. Like, it's no big deal.
For sure.
Yeah. I had somebody tell me the other day that if we could start bringing light to the conversation around suicidal thoughts and make them more accepted, then we can start making it to where having suicidal thoughts or feelings like you don't want to be here sometimes
Right.
can lead to, if you allow it, a rebirth here on earth.
That's right.
So instead of acting on a thought, give yourself time to then go and rehab time.
That's right.
Rebirth. Rebirth. And let those times that you're thinking about, I don't know if I want to be here, or what is going on in your mind, be sacred and soulful, and find a way just to get through them, no matter what it takes.
1,000%. And those thoughts come. Like, I've had those thoughts.
Yeah.
I've had those thoughts. I've had those thoughts in the last few years, maybe. I had those thoughts in the football. It's just now, what do I do with those thoughts? Like, you're not wrong for having it.
No. And the more that we can normalize that, I think the more that people can start to say these are just thoughts.
That's it.
And then you can have a rebirth.
That's right. I love that.
Yeah, I did too. I was like, that's really powerful. Yeah, your mom seemed like she was such a huge influence on you, and, like taking you around. And I was listening to that on your book, and it was just, she seems like such a neat lady. And,
yeah, she was. She's a woman of strength. I credit her and my father, to who I am. And I didn't realize, sometimes when you're in something, you don't realize how much of a blessing it is to have. You don't realize how not normal it is to have such great parents. And I had that. I had two great parents. And, my mother, when I talk about my faith, she's the pillar of my faith. She's the one that really instilled faith in all of us. Even my father being a pastor, like, she was the one that always taught me to believe no matter what. And it's one of the things that I try to bring on to this generation, because that's the thing too I want to say to people out there struggling with grief, is that just because they're no longer here doesn't mean they can't be here anymore. Like, they can still live on. And I think about that even in my life. Like, when I'm moved on, what's going to still live on? And so by me even talking about my mom now, or sharing things that people don't even know that's from her to the world, she continues to impact lives even when she's transitioned.
Through you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I like that. So where do you see, you're talking a lot about, you're just even more motivated to grow this in ways that, what's the word I'm looking for? In ways that will just expand.
Yeah.
It seems like you're already reaching people globally. So how do you keep that going? What are your thoughts around that?
I'm going to say this, and I don't want people to take this out of context, but I don't have plans like that.
Okay.
I don't have a 10-year plan as far as like mapping out things, because I just feel like sometimes we plan out, like we plan even God out of it, but we plan what's meant for our life. And I've noticed this because 10 years ago, if you asked me my plan, it wouldn't be being here today. You know what I mean? Where I'm at today. So I go by standards of how I live my life. I go by a lifestyle. What are the check marks that I need to make? And my biggest thing is that, did I live in purpose today? Did I serve a purpose? Did I breathe purpose into this world? Did I help people live that purpose? And if I can say yes to that every single day, I know that is going to continue to push me into new arenas, new areas that I'm not in yet, you know, and then get the message to people across the world. So I don't think it's always, I think we live in a society where we feel like, and there's times too, like, I don't want people to take this out of context, but we feel like we always have to create something new, right? Reinvent ourselves and this or that. And sometimes that is the case, but sometimes it's just about really honing in what you have and really going all in with everything that you have been given and keep giving that to the world. So I just want to stay consistent. I want to stay committed. I want to stay disciplined. I want to have faith and heart and continue to reach the hearts that haven't been touched. Every single day as a person, Trent, I have no idea who you were until today. And so I want to make sure to give that content out and reach those people.
Yeah. I think you just gave a lot of people permission to not feel like they have to be so locked into plans. At least you did me.
No, plans can paralyze you because sometimes we see plans and they don't work out. You're like, oh, things aren't working out for my life, but they actually are. So I'm like, you need structure in a way to keep you, keep you in line and keep you moving forward and consistent. But I think it's almost insane to say, like, I know where my life is going to be 15 years from now. Yeah. I'm just trying to construct the best version of me, right? There's a me and there's a you waiting on you, the greatest version of yourself, or there's a version of us that has been settled. And so every day I feel like we're making choices and decisions to either construct the greatest us or to construct the version that we mean and be like, man, like, this is a settled version of me. So if I can make the right choices and decisions, then I can be a person I can be proud of, whether that be next month, next year, or 10 years from now.
Yeah, it's amazing, I think, what you can do if you live the life out of exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. If you just wake up and you're like, I'm going to work on living life with purpose and the other ones that you mentioned, it automatically allows the work you do just to come through naturally. Yeah. And having ideas of like what you want to create or do and maybe where you want to go are important to create things, but there's also a natural flow.
You don't want to put yourself in a box.
Yeah.
Your creativity in a box. And if I was just being the person people wanted me to be as a speaker, I wouldn't have never walked into being an entrepreneur. I wouldn't have walked into being a spoken word artist. I wouldn't have been able to walk into being all the things that I do, a podcast or whatever. So I like to go by limitless identity. Like, I don't want to have an identity. Trent Shelton is my identity. I'm not just a speaker. I'm not just an author. I'm whatever, I feel like I'm called to be in that moment. And it might change. I might go coach next year. I might go do this or that. I'm just doing things to really fulfill my soul because I feel like fulfillment is the greatest success. So yeah. I chase that.
Well, and it sounds like you listen to, God, and if there's a moment where he speaks to you again and he creates something new,
1,000%. 1,000%.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fulfillment for me. And I think fulfillment is very underrated. I think that is the greatest success because I can offer somebody $10 million and say, you will have no peace. They wouldn't take it. All right, so here's the best job in the world, but you have no fulfillment. You wouldn't take it. So it's like, why do we place all these other things ahead of the main things, peace and fulfillment? So I want to fulfill my soul and creatively, because I've been at times where I've been in a box, where I didn't do it. And I was having all the success and everything, but there was still something inside of me that wasn't satisfied. And it was because I wasn't doing the things that creatively I wanted to do. Even if those things failed to the world, they were successful to me. Yeah. I loved it. And so I just think you have to be comfortable with yourself to be able to try different things and fulfill your soul.
Yeah. What do you recommend, or what do you personally do daily? I know you told us a few things, but with physical health and different things to keep your mind. And let me go back a little bit. I was having this discussion earlier about mental health and physical health, and why we want to call some of the things that we're doing like mental health boxes and things like that. And I said, well, I want people to get comfortable with the word mental health. It's just like physical health. We all have a mental health.
Right.
And so just like we have to work on our physical health, we have to work on our mental health. what are the ways that you work on your mental health?
We could talk for an hour on this, but
Okay.
the main thing is I live by 3 words: protect your peace. And those words, I get chills because I love talking about it. Those words changed my life. And so for me, mental health wise, the main thing is disconnecting from such a connected world. We live in a world right now where it's information overload. And some of us don't even realize. You pick up your phone. I tell people all the time, you wouldn't have 1,000 conversations with people in a day and expect not to be burned out, but you're literally doing that when you scroll and you're taking all this information. And so for me, it's disconnecting from the world so I can reconnect to my world. And what that looks like is I'm a geek for sunrises and sunsets. Sunrises lets me know that we made it to another day. Sunsets lets me know we made it through another day. I'm a big advocate for nature, like huge.
I saw some pictures of that.
Nature heals. Nature is God's natural medicine for the soul, because that's a place where nothing exists to me. Like outside the trails, nothing exists, and I can actually listen to my soul. I can actually cry if I want to. I can smile if I want to. And that's the thing I would tell people, like, don't be afraid to disconnect. Don't be afraid to deactivate so you can activate something else in your soul. And don't be afraid to, I want to be careful with this word, but disappear. Not disappear from the world necessarily, but disappear. Like I would say, like, go away for a month, go away for 2 months, let the people that love you know what you're doing, but disappear so you can reappear as a better version of yourself. And so I'm not afraid to do that. Even with my big following, there's times where, I'm like, I'm taking this month off because I need to be able to fill my cup up so I can keep serving. And a lot of people, I feel like now, since we're so connected, we're serving from empty cups. That's why we're burned out more than ever as professionals. That's why we are, anxiety more than ever, confusion more than ever, because we're not giving us what we need. So a big part of mental health for me is literally spending time with Trent and giving my soul what it needs.
Yeah, I saw some of your posts, and I just love seeing you out in nature and posting about that, because I believe it's so important. If people say that they don't have time to work on their mental health, but then they can spend an hour scrolling through social media, it's like if you just took even 5 minutes a day to work on your mental health, it would be such a game changer.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
And starting your day off with that. Not picking up your phone, starting your day off with that. Meditation is a thing for me too.
Absolutely. I was just talking to somebody earlier, and I was saying it took me a lot of years. Like I started meditating about 7 years ago, okay? But it was very inconsistent. But I just kept picking it up and trying and trying. I would do like these 21-day things. And then I went to a silent retreat this past spring.
I heard about one of those.
You'll have to go with me next time.
I heard about that.
It's amazing. If you love being out in nature and want to connect with your soul, it was the best thing, one of the best things I've done. And it was 3 days. It was in Fredericksburg.
So you don't talk? Wow, that sounds like a type of place.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah. So no words.
No words. You have a spiritual teacher there that, kind of guides you through certain times before breakfast. Like you get up, you watch the sunrise in Fredericksburg, which is like glorious. Wow. I mean, it just was like filled with God's presence from like the morning you wake up. And then he speaks a little bit about, whatever is going on in his heart and mind and about the day. And then you meditate, and then you go and you can do walking meditations, and you eat, and kind of the same structure before lunch and then before dinner and then before bed. But you don't, you're meditating. There's some writing. I was writing poetry, or I was just kind of sketching like things that I would see. But even that, he doesn't recommend us do a lot, because it's still connecting you with what you're writing and doing. And it's really about learning peace. And I had never experienced silence, and I always thought of meditating, but it was this type of silence that expands. It was just so beautiful. I can't even explain it. It was the first time I felt true silence. So since then, I am every day. It's the first thing I have to do when I wake up in the morning. It's changed my life.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
I might definitely check that out.
Okay. Well. Okay. So we have peace, wilderness, or being outside. And then is there a couple did you say there was 3 things?
Yeah. So, there's a lot of things, but another major one for me too is, even when I say disconnect, but also knowing when to connect. So conversation. So I love to have conversation with people who give me perspective, on different things. So you got to have those trusted people in your life. that can give you that sense of like, get you out of your head and into your heart. You know what I mean? Like, 'cause sometimes I'm in my head, like, am I doing enough? I'm not. And, you know, my team, I'm able to talk to them and they're able to give me perspective through conversation. So I think that's very big, to have conversations with the right people and know you can go to, that really give you that sense of understanding. You know what I mean? That really is powerful.
Yeah, and just having like sounding board and different perspectives, and yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. And the third,
Trying to think what else. Get into my word. I mean, that's a big thing for me mentally. Get into my word, or even reading, like either or journaling too. Like I said, it's 1,000 things that I do, but journaling is a thing that I'm not really as consistent at, but I love to do it to get the thoughts out and the flow. And I'm more of a audible journaler. I guess that's the word. Like I like to speak things. So in my phone, instead of writing, I have voice notes of me speaking out things that I'm thinking about, that I'm going through, and I log it like that. So it's like me downloading, like me really, and I don't even post half of things. It's just me getting it out of my system. So that's something I do that might be a little different than I think what most people do, but it's allowing me to get it out.
no, well, that is a really good way for people to journal. Like you can have both
sure.
ways, and because we do know that journaling is so important. But if you're not a writer, hey, that's okay. Like speaking in your phone, I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge tool. Trent, I want to thank you for everything that you do. Like I said, I'm just now really kind of engaging more on Instagram. And it's almost more because of you, because I've been following what you do. The fact that you pray around people.
Yeah.
I mean, it just helps. Even on days where I'm like, I don't necessarily need this, but to see that it's going on in the world fills my heart and soul, and just lets me know that there are people like you that care.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you.
No problem.
I want to thank Trent Shelton again for joining us at Speak as One. We will have all of his information below, his socials, books, everything that you need to follow him. And we're going to have more stories coming out. So please follow, share, and like with your friends, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Speak as One. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.